Friday, June 21st, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about all the distractions out there, all the comments we're getting now about the markets, precious metals especially, why it's going up. You hear people saying, oh, gold is going up because of the tensions with Iran, possible war with Iran. It's going up because of Brexit or because of the trade tensions. And I think that's more of a, how can I say, a mainstream theme. And why do they do that? Why am I calling it a distraction? Well, because I think the powers that be, the people who are really in charge, the people in charge of the money, the central bankers, and I always go back to that comment by Rothschild, one of the Rothschilds back in the 19th century. Give me control of the money and I care not who makes the laws. And they're still in charge, the bankers and the central bankers. And in my opinion, they know their system is irreparable. You can't repair it. There's just too much debt now. And they're trying to find like distractions everywhere, geopolitical, trade-wise, to make sure the public doesn't put the spotlight on them. And that's what I'm here to try to tell people, that the reason things, in my opinion, are going to get tougher in terms of rising cost of living, higher precious metals prices. Some people might say, well, that's good. You have gold. Gold's going to go higher. Yeah, true, but it will just mean that it will be a barometer that will be telling investors and the public that there's something wrong with the money, that the monetary authorities have abused the system, and that's what it's all about, and that the currency is going to lose value. And there is short-term movement when you hear headlines about Iran or the trade deal, but I would say longer term you need to keep your eyes on the ball. Follow the money. You go back to the late 1970s. The 1970s was a decade of stagflation. Of course, that was when Richard Nixon, the president, suspended the convertibility of the dollar into gold in August 1971. That's when the world went off a gold anchor for the first time ever. And then, gold rose all the way into 1980, almost went up to 900 from $35 that it was fixed at in 1971. But you hear a lot of, you read a history, and I even remember that period. I wasn't following the markets back then that much. I was only about 14, 15, but you had the Iranian hostage crisis, and you look at the price of gold from November 1979 to January 1980, it went from 400 to almost 900. A lot of people say, oh, it was because of the Iranian hostage crisis. I think it was more because the dollar was very much under threat. Back in 1977, people, even I think the U.S. Treasury was thinking or did borrow in Swiss francs. So that's how bad it was. So right now, we're hearing a lot about Iran. And this is the latest here this morning. This is from the FT. Trump ordered Iran strike, but reversed course, reports say. Radar and missile installations were to be targeted a day after Tehran shot down U.S. drone. So let's have a look at this. I know I'm saying it's a distraction, but it's interesting because I think there are people in the administration who want war. The neocons, right? Mike Pompeo and John Bolton. And I'm not really sure what's going on here. This is quite weird that this story has come out. It says President Donald Trump ordered a military strike on Iranian targets in response to Tehran's shooting down of a naval surveillance drone before reversing course, according to multiple U.S. media outlets, right? So you never know with these media outlets, especially the New York Times. It says, the New York Times said Mr. Trump approved attacks on targets such as radar and missile installations, and U.S. aircraft were en route when a decision was taken to abort the mission. The Washington Post and ABC News also reported the developments. So, yeah, and I saw that there's headlines yesterday about Henry Kissinger showing up at the Pentagon as well. So you read the article here, it says, Tom Wright, a foreign policy expert at the Brookings Institution, a think tank, said Mr. Trump, and I quote this, has been suspicious of John Bolton manipulating him into a war since he started. And that suspicion remains today. He wants to squeeze Iran, but seems not to want a war. The New York Times said the strikes were backed by Mr. Bolton, CIA Director Gina Haspel, and Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State. So, it's very interesting that this is happening as well. I think the most important thing from this, apart from I think that in the overall scheme of things, monetary things, yes, this is a important thing, but the most important is not the Iranian, how can I say, angle. It's more that there doesn't seem to be someone in charge of the executive post of the United States right now. And that's, I think that is actually more worrying, and it's probably something that will probably help gold more. It's the same thing in Brexit. Brexit itself is not the main thing. As I've said before, there is the insurmountable debts that the US, the UK, and other countries have, but the leadership seems to be all over the place. Same thing here in the UK. We the Prime Minister resigned, and we've got this leadership contest going on now for the next month or so, and we've got Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt. And I was listening to something yesterday about the fact that once they get a new leader on July 22nd, the Conservative Party, and the UK gets a new Prime Minister, most of the European leaders in Brussels are going to be on vacation at the beach, and they're only coming back in September, and that they're not going to change. They're not going to bend to the new Prime Minister, and they're going to stay with the deal that they gave to Theresa May. So things are getting quite uncertain. And I think that's the most important thing, the uncertainty and the fact that people are going to start losing confidence in government. And with the huge amount of debt that we have nowadays, that's a bad thing for the currency, i.e., and that's why it's good for gold. But I think gold, either way, if things stabilize, gold is going to keep going higher, because there's no other way to write off the debt apart from, writing off the debt, which they're not going to do, or inflating it away, which is what the central bankers are doing, right? Keep an eye on the central bankers. Even though we closed at an all-time high yesterday in the S&P, we're hearing now Goldman Sachs is saying that the Fed's going to start cutting rates in July, and that they're going to the QT is going to be phased out right away in July instead of September. ECB, Mario Draghi said they're going to start cutting again and doing QE. So that's what we need to focus on. So what's happened overnight to the markets? Well, gold actually earlier this morning traded above 1400. We got to a high of 1412. Right now we're at 1392. So it's going to get a lot more volatile, I think, gold. The other thing as well, gold is going to, the higher we get, the bigger moves we're going to get percentage-wise. they're going to be, let's say, a 40% move from here, for example, would take gold to almost $2,000. So we're going to see a lot of volatility now that we're broken out of that 1375 level. Yeah, we need to wait to the end of today, the end of the week, to see, we could very easily go back below 1375, especially when the US comes in. We'll have to see. But, as I commented yesterday, one of the viewers made a comment. I said, anything is possible, but it seems to me, probability-wise, that we've broken out now, and that gold is on its way a lot higher. But as I said, let's keep an eye on it. So the low overnight has been 1387. Right now it's 8:20 a.m. London time. Silver is down 10 cents at 1532. High has been 1557, and the low has been around here, 1530. Stock market is not going anywhere here. I know yesterday we were up quite a bit. Right now the Dow is down 10 points. S&P is down only 2. NASDAQ 100 futures down 9. Currencies, the pound, 127.02. That's unchanged. The euro is at 113.10, up 0.16%. And the dollar yen is at 107.30, unchanged. Dollar's up slightly against the yuan at 687. The other thing I noticed yesterday, stock markets, the major indices, they were up just under 1%, while gold and silver were up about 2%. So I saw a lot of headlines in the mainstream media while the stock market closes at new highs, S&P, new all-time highs. But if you go back prior to, let's say, 1934 or 1933, when the dollar was gold, when FDR took the U.S. off the gold standard domestically, gold was money. So yesterday, actually, the stock market dropped about 1%, against real money. So I remember a few years ago in Caracas, the stock exchange there, the index was the best performing in the world, while in Venezuela, there was hyperinflation. So that's what I'm trying to say here. You need to keep an eye on these things. Yeah, the stock market might be making new highs, but keep an eye on gold. So what about crude oil? Well, crude oil is going to be move around as well quite a bit with the tensions that are ongoing in the Middle East right now. You've got WTI traded up as high as almost 57.80 this morning. Right now we're at 56.95. That's down 1/3%. Brent is down 16 or 1/4% at 63.82. Bond markets. Yeah, we traded below 2% in the 10-year yield. Right now we're up about 2.5 basis points. So we're at 202.5. So yesterday the 10-year yield closed at 2%. The 3-month yield is at 214. So yeah, the curve's still inverted, 3 to 10. It's even more inverted, 3 to 5, 7 years. So there you go. Yes, there's a lot of distractions out there. A lot of people, I don't watch CNBC or Bloomberg anymore. I'm sure they're, I haven't listened to it, but they're going to keep going on about Iran and gold going up. But if they talk about gold, but I think people need to remember that this is a long-term thing, and gold is going to keep, gold and silver are going to keep going up. Because the central bankers, don't forget, the central bankers, these are the guys behind the curtain. They're cornered right now. And they're going to have to keep printing and inflating the system away. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.